So back in the introduction, Michael, I mentioned that the stat that the average person has about 634 connections in their network. So, whether we see that as a lot or a little, the question needs to be asked regarding the size of one's network. How big should we let our network get? Or would you advise that we keep it, under a manageable number of sorts?
Yeah, and I don't think in my personal opinion, I did an article on this and I interviewed Robin Dunbar, who's of Dunbar's Number, and who says that if you look throughout society, that people often end up in groups of 150, and that when it goes above that, it tends to break off. And even ants have like a number of 5,000. So you can't go above that. And then there's others. I interviewed a professor who's very well regarded in the field of network science, Barry Wellman, and he thinks that you really can go above that number, and that some of the tools that are available today are making that possible. So regardless of the 150 number, there still is, I believe, breaking points where we all get to it, where there's so many relationships and we're just trying to keep up with people or keep up with our tasks. It can be overwhelming. And so when you reach that point, I think one possibility is becoming more efficient. And there's lots of ways to become more efficient, such as the tools, or, when I interviewed Keith Ferrazzi, he had 5 people helping him to manage his network better. So, for example, he had 1,000 Google alerts on different people, and his team would help him organize all of those alerts into kind of taking away the noise from the signal and share that with him. Or, like I mentioned, his team would help him come up with the 5 packets of generosity before a meeting. His team would send him a list of people he should contact on a given day when he's in a cab or just walking somewhere, if he just wants to reach out and text someone or call someone. So there are those different steps one could take. One of my favorite things is I add some of my closest friends on Facebook and Twitter to a close friends network so that I make sure I always see their updates, and then I'm proactively make sure I comment rather than just being passive. And but there's only so much efficiency you can get. And I think that number can take you above 150 pretty far, but there is a breaking point. And there's a great book called Breakpoint by Jeff Steibel, who's the CEO of Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Corporation. And he's done in his 20s, he's getting his PhD and did a lot of research on brain science. And what he's found is that a lot of networks they're different, whether it's a network of bees or cockroaches or your network in your brain of neurons, but there's similarities. And he was 40 years old, and he's saying his daughter, 6 years old, has like 10 times more connections in her brain than she does. But obviously, he's smarter than her. So bigger does not necessarily mean better. And reaching a breaking point can be a really good opportunity to take a step back and really look at what are those deep relationships you're forming that, that are values-based, where you're able to really help each other, rather than those relationships where you're trying to force it and it's not making it work. You feel like you have to be someone else. And so in summary, there's lots of ways to be more efficient and build your network more deeply and more widely, but also it's not bad to have a smaller network and really focus on the quality as well.